An ordinary day in the Middle Ages began like any other. People woke up, worked, and expected to return home. But many of them didn't, because in the medieval world, even a normal day could quietly end in death, a day that felt safe. In the Middle Ages, most days felt familiar. People rose with the light. They ate simple food. They stepped into routines they had followed their entire lives. Farmers went to their fields. Artisans opened their small workshops. Children ran through narrow streets, barefoot and laughing. Nothing about the morning felt dangerous. There were no warnings, no signs that something was wrong. But danger was woven into ordinary life. A small cut from a tool, a stumble on a dirty road, a cough that felt harmless at first. These things were ignored because they had to be. Stopping work meant hunger. Rest meant falling behind. And doctors were rare, expensive, and often useless. So people continued. They carried small injuries. They breathed through mild pain. They trusted that tomorrow would arrive as expected. By evening, many were tired, but still alive. And that was enough. Soft pause. They had no way of knowing that the most dangerous part of the day was still ahead, when small things became fatal. In the medieval world, death rarely arrived suddenly. It began quietly. A small cut on the hand, a tooth that would not stop aching, a cough that lingered a little too long. These were not emergencies. They were normal. People wrapped wounds in cloth, rinsed them with water, and returned to their work. But infection lived everywhere. In the soil, on tools, in the air of crowded rooms. By afternoon, pain grew warmer. By evening, swelling appeared. By night, fever took hold. There were no antibiotics waiting, no clean surgery, no way to stop what had already begun. Families watched closely. They noticed heavy breathing, confusion, skin burning with heat. But they also knew this pattern. They had seen it before. Many people who went to bed feeling unwell never woke up the same. Some never woke up at all. Soft pause. And while the rest of the town slept, another ordinary day quietly turned into its final night. Night, fever, and the last sleep. Night fell quietly over medieval homes. Doors were closed. Candles burned low. The sounds of the day slowly faded. Inside, bodies tried to rest. For those who had been injured or fallen ill, night brought no comfort. Fever rose with the darkness. Breathing became uneven. Thoughts drifted in and out of clarity. Some whispered prayers. Others simply lay still, listening to their own heartbeat. There was little anyone could do. Water was offered. Cloths were placed on burning skin. But the illness moved faster than care. Sleep came in fragments. Moments of drifting. Sudden waking. Dreams that made no sense. For some, these dreams were the last thing they remembered. By morning, the house would be quiet. A body still in bed. Candles burned out. Another ordinary life ended during the night. Soft pause. In the Middle Ages, many people did not die in battle or disaster. They died quietly, in their sleep, at the end of a day that had seemed completely normal. Morning after, quiet acceptance. Morning returned as it always did. Light slipped through small windows. Streets slowly filled with sound. But inside some homes, Nothing moved. Families understood without words. There was no rushing, no shouting, only quiet preparation. The body was washed. Clothes were adjusted. Candles were lit again. Death was not rare enough to shock. It was familiar. Neighbors came quietly. Work paused briefly. Life continued. By the next day, fields were worked again. Workshops reopened. Children returned to the streets. Another ordinary day began. And somewhere in the town, someone else carried a small injury. A cough. A fever. Unaware that their day, too, might end the same way. Soft pause. This was life in the Middle Ages. Not constantly violent. Not always dramatic. Just fragile. Life went on. Life did not stop. The town continued to breathe. Even as it lost people quietly, work resumed. Meals were prepared. Children grew older. Death became part of memory, not something spoken about often. People learned not to expect safety, only routine. Each morning was accepted as a gift. Each night uncertain. Beds were returned to. Candles were lit and blown out. And so, ordinary days continued, some ending in rest, others ending in silence. Soft pause. In the Middle Ages, this was the rhythm of life. Calm, familiar, and fragile. Fragile bodies, familiar fear. People lived knowing how easily things could end. A fall, a fever, a simple mistake. The body was fragile, and everyone understood that. Fear was not loud. It stayed quiet. It lived in the way people moved carefully, in how they avoided risks when they could, in how they prayed before sleep. No one assumed tomorrow was guaranteed. They simply hoped this night would pass. Sleep without safety. Sleep did not mean safety. Beds were places of rest, but also of uncertainty. People closed their eyes, without knowing how they would wake. Some slept deeply, some lightly, some not at all. Breathing was listened to. Movements were watched. And when silence lasted too long, someone would gently check. Most nights passed quietly. Some did not. Quiet strength of ordinary people. Still, life continued. People loved, worked, shared meals. They laughed when they could. They rested when allowed. Strength was not heroic. It was ordinary. It was waking up again. It was returning to routine. It was living despite uncertainty. This quiet strength filled medieval life, unnoticed, uncelebrated, but constant. Closing reflection. Looking back, the Middle Ages were not only harsh, they were human, filled with ordinary days, ordinary hopes, ordinary endings. People did not live expecting death, but they lived aware of it. And so, each day mattered quietly. Long soft pause. An ordinary day in the Middle Ages often ended in death, but many more ended in sleep.